saying upcoming. Okay, if anyone's in the chat, can you please let us know? So I've got a great podcast, I think, planned for today. I am planning on talking about that portrait. So it really impacted me, and I've been thinking about it, and I actually wrote some stuff about it today. So if anyone's out there, hi Sam, how are you? So I've just been talking to myself, I think, I'm not sure, about that portrait. I planned an entire show around it. I've been thinking about it all day, and I really just want to get into it. I hope you're well. I hope you had a wonderful day today, and if not, I hope that maybe being in the chat will make you feel a little bit better, right? Hi, Marvin. How are you? I'm glad that you can hear me. Good evening, good evening, good evening. The demonic portrait. Yes, exactly. So, another favor, can you let me know if you can see my screen? If you can see my screen, yes. And are Meghan and Harry walking in front of the Sussex Studio Experience podcast sign? Is that what's up there? Or is it something from the other day? Because this is challenging. I think I'm getting better though. Yes, perfect. So how many of you have been thinking about that portrait that King Charles had commissioned? I've been thinking so much about it, and I've been thinking about a lot of other things, right? I know we've talked in the past a bit about 2024, Cat Williams said, the reckoning, right? And this year has felt so much like that. This has been one of the wildest years that I can remember. Like so many reckonings. Cat Williams in the comedy world around plagiarism. What else? Monique and her son. Now you have this whole Drake Kendrick thing, and this one's turning out to be pretty sad. So let me read some more of what you guys said. He always wanted to be Church Nelly, what's up? Hello. Yes. And that's exactly what he looks like. A feminine product, right? I don't know how many people would like to use that particular one though, but yeah, it's pretty like spot on. And the whole thing about the monarch, right? I've been thinking a lot about this monarch butterfly. And Charles is literally the monarch right now. And in order for him to be monarch, his mother had to pass away, or she had to step down. So she passed away. She never got to see him be a monarch. And so you literally have this monarch butterfly that is in the painting, and it's about the best looking thing, I think, in the painting, right? But then when I think about the butterfly, I think about how the butterfly also comes into existence. Let me just nerd out just a little bit, right? So the caterpillar and the butterfly are two distinct kinds of animals. The butterfly is formed from the caterpillar, but to me it's almost like an amniotic sac, right? It's almost like it has to take the caterpillar and use its enzymes to completely dissolve that caterpillar, and something completely new forms. Has no regard, not that it could, for that life that was the caterpillar in order for it to survive. And so I'm making these parallels between this monarch butterfly and that process of living, existing. I have to get rid of Harry. I have to get rid of Meghan. I have to get rid of all threats. Tell me if am I making this a stretch? Is this a stretch that monarch could possibly represent so much more, than just a monarch butterfly? Because I'm like, wait a second, what is that life cycle like? The life cycle says this stage is an animal that's a distinct animal, and this animal completely has to dissolve. Harry, Meghan, in my mind, have been seen as threats to this monarch, right? Like threats to the monarch butterfly, and they've been made disposable. And so now they're on the other side of the world. They're over here in the US, and the UK media is still not happy, right? So let's see what we have here. Thank goodness Harry and Meghan left that cesspool of hate. Yes, and why is it following them? If she relinquishes the title of Duchess, she still has his princess title, and she also has the larger title of Princess of Nigeria now. So what can they possibly do? They did everything they could. Sam says, I don't think he's going to be monarch much longer. Charles said he lost his sense of taste. Ooh, well, I don't know. Did he ever have one? Like, ba-dum-bum. He married who? Bad joke. I don't know. Hi, Fatima. So, yeah, so should I just get to some of the stuff that I put together for you guys? And you guys, you're really going to have to bear with me. I wrote a kind of, I've been on Kendrick, right? So, in this Kendrick-Drake battle, if you've been here, if you've never been here, welcome. But if you haven't, I was inspired to do some kind of corny writing. So, bear with me, guys, while I put this up. I'm going to take a deep breath. Church Nelly says, Marvin said, Professor, I'm an old woman. That pit caused me to Yeah, both of them don't deserve, that's right. Sammy never had taste. Right, that's, you sound like some of our other members. So I'm going to get to it. If it doesn't work, bear with me. I'm gonna keep trying. So here we go. We have our faves up there looking like fabulous. Sexiest man alive, sexiest woman alive, right? Next, here we are. So I'm inspired by the painting, and I used AI, I didn't paint these, to create a kind of life cycle of my own, a kind of caterpillar's life cycle with a monarch of a different kind. What do you guys think? So I'm going to try and read this. And again, it's kind of a poem, it's kind of a rap, and I'll skip some, not a good rapper at all. But I'm going to skip around. Before I do that, let me read what Sam says. Sam said, my brother had cancer. He lost his taste buds a couple of months before he died. Ooh, that's ominous. All right, so, guys, if this isn't going to be a perfect reading, hopefully, though, it'll be good enough. I may stop and start again. So here we go. Yo, gather round, let me spin you a tale about a king named Charles and his portrait unveil. In the palace halls, he stood with Yo by his side, ready to reveal and honor his pride. With a flick of his wrist, he pulled off the black sheet, and what they saw next was quite a defeat. A painting of his body covered in red. Painting gave us all, there will be blood dread. There will be blood dread, right? But listen close, let me make it clear. In this royal game, the people see you here. You can't hide behind a painted facade. The truth always shines, no matter how hard. Now King Charles, he grinned, but it wasn't all smooth, 'cause beneath that smirk there was something to prove. Yo's brush told a tale through colors and strokes, a lesson in power ambition. Yo had jokes. You're going to see that again. A lesson in power and ambition. Yo got jokes. The monarch butterfly dancing in the air was more than just ink. It felt like a dare. A symbol of change, transformation, and flight, but also a warning to do what's right. So my people, take heed. Don't let your ego inflate. In this game of life, it's never too late. A symbol of change, transformation, and flight, but also a warning to do what's right. And King Charles, the people see through your mask, so keep it real. Your Highness, that's all we ask. Now that painting hangs for all to see, a reminder to Charles, to you and to me. In this world of deceit, where lies abound, the truth will prevail. So be real, stand your ground. Let this painting be a lesson learned and wisdom you earned. Keep it real, let your light shine, 'cause in the end, truth is divine. That's it. I had a picture of Charles too, and I don't know what happened to it. Sorry, guys. And that painting. Did it disappear? So, that was my ode to the painting. You can tell I've like gone down way too many rabbit holes thinking about it. So what do you guys think? Let's see what you guys had to say. That painting is giving me silence yes, I was thinking exactly the same thing. The poor caterpillar, that's the life cycle of the caterpillar. And that whole consumption, and not really, like with the whole progeny with Harry and Meghan, the whole thing about them to me seems to be they may not stand here next to us, right? They don't belong here. They are not monarchs, and they can't take up the space because I wanna be on camera. I wanna be on camera. No, I wanna be on camera. So yeah, that's what I spent my time today doing, writing that poem in the spirit again of you guys know who, right? Do I have to say it? I don't think so, because I think he makes us all better. So I'm gonna just read a little bit of this thing right here. And this is from an article called She Knows, and it's about the same thing, the portrait. King Charles III had his first official portraits taken since taking the throne unveiled on Tuesday, and boy did it cause an internet fuss. The painting was commissioned in 2020 and created by Jonathan Yao, an incredibly dramatic look at the monarch, and we're not sure Charles really liked it. I think that's all I'm going to read. We're not sure, like, how many people actually think he liked it. I can't imagine that he liked it, because it looks like all the destruction that he caused. And you know what, I was thinking a lot about Princess Diana today also. The stuff that he did to Princess Diana, and the stuff that he's done to his son, Harry. It's just been unforgivable in my mind. I can't imagine that. Let's see, Church Nellie says, condolences, Sam, on your loss. Absolutely. I missed that one. Let's see. Is that your wisdom of words, Professor? If so, congrats. Yeah, it's just a little something, like, because I think saying something plain, it makes a better statement. It makes a bigger statement. And I think, like, in the kind of sing-songy rhyme scheme, also can allow for us to take things like that in. But, like, also, though, just these portraits, again, I used AI. I did not, and my background is writing, though. It's not in this, it's in photography and writing, so, and psychology. So I'll show you guys again. Hold on. Let me see if I can get it back on the screen. This is the wrong one. Please don't mess up today. Okay, let me go back. All right. So I used AI for these portraits, but I inserted, of course, the butterfly. I inserted, like, the colors of the flag, and I issued commands. It's called Crayon. If any of you guys are interested in, go over to Crayon. You can create beautiful portraits too for free, right? They end up putting a crayon in all the images, but you can, like, use, you can crop it out if you want. So I was thinking about him as a little boy, right? And maybe he looks a little bit innocent here, and the monarch is always present, right? Yeah, exactly. Church Nelly, you guys are just, I love the squad. You guys are so brilliant. Because look at this kid, like, as he ages, and the literal monarch butterfly is a little bit more ominous in some of these. But again, like, create this image that reminds me of, or makes me think about who Charles is, who Charles has been over his entire life, right? Even as a child, who definitely suffered some neglect from his mom. And so what happens to kids, and he has some, looks like narcissistic traits in my mind, right? And so here's another one. So this is, to me, Charles sort of growing up, and what, like, emotions are conveyed, and, like, he gets older and smaller in some ways, right? Because the monarchy looms large. And again, like, there's a kind of distortion, I think, that happens in that family. And he gets more and more distorted in his thinking. And then this is sort of where maybe the turn comes with the artist and the painting. What is that turn where that blood starts to come out, right? Oh, thank you, Church Nelly. Thank you, Church Nelly. I love rhyme. I love song. I love music. I, you guys want me to make one for her? Please say no. I don't want to. Ugh. I don't know what those things would look like on the screen with her today. But like to me, like these things, these images as they change, he begins to look a little bit more brutal and calculated, right? Until we get to like, perhaps his young adult years and when he's maybe in his 40s or 50s. This is how I imagine him. And then even now, like this one reminded me probably the most of how Charles, his hair is a little bit different, but in the end distorted by the monarch, the literal monarch, and that process of having to maybe break yourself down and to be broken down. So I really want to talk about that with you guys today. Any thoughts, guys? Any thoughts? Hello, Patricia. Hello, Doris. Hello, Reba. Have I missed anyone? If I have, please put your name back in the chat. You guys are so kind and polite. And yeah, so I really just wanted to do that. I wanted to talk a little bit to you guys about how Charles began to maybe get a bit more distorted in the way he thinks. And that comes across in your face, right? When you get to be more, let's say in quotation marks, evil, the evil starts to show up in your face, in the way you walk, the way that you talk, the way that you dress, right? Again, going back to Kendrick Lamar talking about Drake and all that stuff. I wrote something else, nothing like a poem. Let me see if I can. So hold on one second. You guys are all here. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you showing up. I'm challenging myself. I get such anxiety about doing it. And at the same time, I definitely want to always show up for you guys. So this is me pushing myself. So as we analyze the symbolism behind this portrait, we uncover a deeper narrative of royal hypocrisy and systemic injustices that permeate the monarchy. Right. So I think I've talked to you guys, I know I have, about the Windrush generation. Anybody over here in that generation or have parents in the Windrush generation and see how the monarchy is treating the black people who came over from countries like Nigeria and Jamaica and other places to build the country? And now, at least in the American media, if you're in the UK, it's being reported as that they are trying to send people from these countries who were originally from these countries, who made homes, built that whole place, for cheap. And now that you're at a certain age, we want to discard you, get rid of you, because we don't want to look at you. We don't want to offer you any support in the form of healthcare. And so that's just like, so as you start to do these things, monarchy, you start to do these things to your people, then you, Charles, start to change. And it's not just seen on your face. It's seen in the way you treat Harry. It's seen in the way you treat Meghan. It's seen in the way you treated Princess Diana. I mean, was that not enough? You literally took her security. And she's no longer with us in a physical form. And you allow the same thing to happen to your son. Why? So he doesn't come back? Because you want to be photographed? But don't forget, the photograph that has the biggest impact is the one that has to do with memory, right? And so, yeah, the photo has the memory that you're making is also being imprinted in our minds. Hello, Marsha. If you said something, I missed it. I'm over here like looking at this thing that I wrote out for the pod today. So, let's see. Doris Johnson says something important. I telephoned and emailed Gavin. Yes, you emailed Gavin, his office today, and thanked him for addressing the Sussex's Archwell Foundation issue. That was a whole mess. Like, really? You're not only going through her trash, you're looking to see if something has been lost in the mail. It is disgusting and ridiculous. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Hello at Go Taste and See. You guys, remember I told you about wanting to spotlight different businesses in the squad? Go Taste and See has a YouTube channel. check it out. Go Taste and See is a friend of mine, so if you get a minute, her episodes are like 5 minutes. They're super short, and they're really amazing. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about, too, in addition to this portrait, I'm going to run through, since I did the slides, I'm going to run through them one more time, right? Number one, our faves, right? Looking beautiful. I designed that. I'm working on my logo, on the logo for the podcast. Hopefully it's getting better. So again, here's young Charles, all about that portrait, right? That portrait that was taken of him with all of the, what looked like blood. And he's growing up, he's getting older, and the monarch is always looming, right? The monarch butterfly, and that physical one, but the literal monarchy and watching his mother rule and learning about other people who have. Again, you know, his face is changing, he's changing, and you start to see like more distortion. He's a young man, there's that monarch butterfly, a symbol of, and you see there's more than one there, a symbol of the monarchy to me, and me just that answer to that painting and what that meant. You know, he's in his 40s, you know, Princess Diana is no longer with us. What does he look like? Is this what his inside looks like? When you lost her, you have these kids, you're not really taking care of them, allegedly, and you take away their security. As an older person, you know their mother passed away. It's okay. It looks like it's okay to take away their security to you. Clearly, you didn't do anything to protect it. And we know the Queen wanted that to happen. And so, yeah, again, Doris Johnson, thank you so much for doing the work of the squad. Because that was such a silly thing that got blown out of proportion. And then the portrait comes out. And it's just like, yeah, so this is the portrait that this guy made of you. And I don't care what he says about the chrysalis and the butterfly turning into a monarch. I mean, a monarch butterfly. I mean, the caterpillar turning into a... But that process is bloody. That process it involves the caterpillar literally having to be dissolved, right? Literally having to be dissolved. And so are you not caring? It looks like that to me. That if Diana was dissolved. She's no longer with us. You weren't directly responsible for that. And she didn't have security. You could have done something about that. Yeah, the governor did do a great job. You know, Gavin, he's super smart too. 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty pleased with what Gavin does out here in Cali. Let's see. Oh, Church Nelly says hello. Go Taste and See. That artist captured his weak, twisted, jealous little soul. Yeah, does this look like his soul? Maybe after Diana, and you would think that he would get better and he would start to like improve, but he squoze Harry's knee after Princess Diana died. No hugs for my darling boy. My darling boy. No hugs, no kisses. You don't hold him. Like, his mother is gone. And the best you can do is, like William said, one of you guys put in the chat, I always get it wrong. We can offer you a smile here and there or something. A handshake. Connie Balmer says hello at Go Taste and See. Yeah, so to me, this is his soul. Next slide. And this is what he looks like to me today, right? And so as we continue to tell lies, as we continue to be jealous, like, it's going to show up. It's going to cause us maybe to drink more, to smoke more, to be more cruel. And then the partner that he chose, that's, in my mind, that's no better, the partner that he chose. Because the Queen allowed that, because she understood that from the beginning it probably should have been her. No matter what the progeny would have come out looking like they would have looked like Charles and Camilla, and we wouldn't be in the squad right now had that happened, right? But we wouldn't need to be if that had happened. But yeah, so I also wanted to talk about like this whole radicalization of the UK media against Duchess Meghan. It is, to me, akin to what you see, and it's religious. It is a religious kind of hate that has happened to our Duchess and has happened to Prince Harry. And you know what? In my hope, and you guys, somebody can say like what they think. Do you guys want her to relinquish the title of Duchess? Because she's now Princess of the Realm. Like, Who cares? The kings of Nigeria, which has never been done, made Elizabeth come to them. And they forget, now if she's been adopted by them in a real sense, what happens when they control the oil? They control oil partnerships. They can cause them great harm, whether they think so or not. And I understand the heating oil crisis was pretty bad. They better chill out and not keep continuing to try and hurt a daughter of Nigeria at this point. She is a literal daughter of Nigeria and now a crown princess. So take your little title. Our kingdom is hundreds of years older than yours. And so, let's see, I see something here. Charles was all over Camilla and he didn't have time for William and Harry after Diana died. We see it in the way Harry was living. Yep. And Camilla had no time for those children. Camilla had these babies lost their mother. And they were little. I mean, Harry was really little. William was so young. And then to make them walk behind the casket, the coffin, that was more trauma on top of trauma. What did they expect would happen to those children? And then William's given everything to let him know that he's going to be this great important figure, but the soul is not getting shored up, right? What does it do to have everything you want and lose your soul? And so he's walking around. He needs to do the work himself. He needs to go, in my opinion, he needs to go and do some reflecting and do some internal spiritual work so that he can connect with himself. And in connecting with himself, perhaps he will be a better, not even perhaps in my mind, I believe that he will be a better ruler if he goes and not only connects with himself, but he connects by doing that with himself. He will understand the people better. Let's see, we have, she should keep her title as long as she's married to Harry. She could, right? Yes, that is one, and that's what she's done. And if they took it, she still becomes Princess Harry. But her title now is bigger in my mind than the title of Duchess. Princess trumps Duchess, right? And also, she has all of these kingdoms that she's now affiliated with. It's not just one. Let's see, Meghan should not relinquish nothing. Those titles was given to her by Queen Elizabeth II. She will not give up her titles because that's what they want. Never. Okay, I hear you, Rebecca Henderson. I don't want it with you. So you guys agree with, okay, that's good. Princess Meghan Adamazi should keep all titles from both those nations. Her power is what they fear. I say keep them afraid. Black women are powerful in all things and they know it. Well, Marshar, the voice of Marshar is always a powerful one. Today we have Marshar and her thesis statement. Thank you, Marshar, for saying that. Let's see. They will not accept the title if she gives it up. They did it before, and they will refuse. I don't know if many of you saw, when I mostly look at YouTube, and when I was scrolling, I saw James O'Brien, and I also saw one of the morning shows, and they did a poll asking if they should come back. We have a hole, and that was Tina Brown. We have a hole in our heart the size of Harry. Well, Harry has a wife, right? And if you truly have a hole in your heart the size of Harry, why would you do all the abuse? Why would you abuse him? Tough love went out the door a long time ago. We don't really subscribe to that anymore. We don't ascribe to it. We don't subscribe to it. We don't beat our children because we love them. Because that causes a lot of other trauma. And when we beat our children, we grow the part of the brain that we don't want to grow. We have two brains essentially. We have an old amygdala and we have our prefrontal cortex, right? If we beat our children, when we are beaten, we're growing the trauma brain, the brain that knows how to get out or escape. And once that thing is growing, energy can't go to all and be in all places at once. When we water our plants, this gets bigger, that gets bigger, right? So the amygdala, if you want that to stay smaller and for the prefrontal, the thinking brain, to grow, you want to love the child more. You don't want to make them afraid. You don't want to beat, and for African Americans, those things are like plantation things. We started beating our children because we were afraid and we didn't want harm to come to them. And so we did that thing, and it was what was done to us by overseers on the plantation. Beat it into you, beat it out of you, scare you into submission. We don't do that anymore. Let's see. They will not accept the title if she gives it. Yep. Okay, I said that right. No, do not return the title. So I'm overruled. Thank you, guys. Do not return the title. If they want to strip them of the title, let them take it. I can assure you that it's moving fast. That would cause the royal family in the UK a great problem. The people would rebel. Okay. That could happen, right? The people could rebel and say, don't take those titles. The poll that Tina Brown in that one? I don't know if she was in that one, but she was the one asking that question. And then I saw Dr. Shola. How many of you saw Dr. Shola? Let's see. Princess Adamazi is a senior royal in her own right. So she is of royal blood. That means old Milla and Missing Bones have to curtsy to her. All the more to keep all of her titles. Okay. Okay. Like, I know for me, and I'm one of those, my mom would say, you'll cut off your nose, right? I'm a cut off your nose kind of person. I'm learning, I'm growing. But for me, I would probably just say, you know what, take it. Like, that would be me. And so for her, though, and for you guys, like, no, you ain't getting that. Like, I earned this with the abuse that I've been taking. You guys don't get to do that. And so, yeah, it would cause them a bigger headache than they already have. But wasn't it like a beautiful thing for them to be on that piece of paper? I don't know what it costs to renew something, like maybe $120. Like, when I renew my license, it's like between $150 and $200, depending on which one. So come on. Clearly. Like, clearly. But they thought they had something. And it's just like, you guys, they were so invested in that thing, right? And I think that it is because of the radicalization of the media. And again, it's not just the media. When I say the media, I understand that there are people behind these media narratives. It's not just a newspaper article being created. They understand that whether they believe what they're saying or not, they're making money off of destroying this woman, right? And if you look at, again, Black American history, I mean, it is a thing to behold. There's a book that's really old called The Delectable Negro, and it was a cookbook. And I'm not going to say any more about what they cooked or whom, but there was a cookbook around Black American bodies in this country. And I think it's been revisited, but yeah, that was a thing. Like, if you go to places like Harvard, if you go to places like Ivy League schools, they literally have collections of bones, collections of private parts of Black men, collections of all kinds of things that were taken at these picnics, these cookouts, where they would literally hang a person that would be the strange fruit, and their they would make postcards out of it, and they would take, well, I won't even say anymore. You guys can figure it out. So if that has been done, what does it matter if we do this to Meghan? Like, it's not the worst. We didn't do that to you, right? We beat our children because that's what God said to do. That's why children are so disrespectful. I and my siblings were spanked, and we all turned out just fine. I think that's true for some people, right? I think being in the therapy world and understanding, when I raised a kid, I didn't. And he had challenges as a little guy, and he is the nicest fella you could ever meet now. It does, in my mind, damage. It damages the brain. And we do it out of fear because we want our kids to behave, right? It's just not something I ascribe to. I don't subscribe to that. It's just like having a partner, because if we beat them for 16 years and then we stop, that's something that we've imprinted on them. They learn that, in my mind, And I don't want this big black kid going out and hurting someone else because I taught him that that's how you get somebody to do. And this is just me, right? This is just me. So, let's see. If they stripped them of their titles, Duke and Duchess, they would have to call them princess. Yes, prince and princess. They won't. I'm from the old school where we were denied everything, even things that we worked for. Nowadays, we still have to fight for what's rightfully ours. I still want my 40 acres and the mule. Marsha, yep. And you know what? Like, I come from a family, I don't know if I've said this in the pod before, but I come from a family where my great-grandfather was a cowboy. He literally, yes, I have. We've talked about this. Like how the Fulani, how we came from some of the Fulani and we used the techniques that we learned before we were brought here to tame the horse, to train the horses. And we also, we created steer wrestling, all of those things. The cowboy literally comes from black men being called boys who took care of the cows. The same as the horse boy, the same as the water boy, the same as the house boy, the same as the field boy. They just made it look so good when they turned up and did it that other people came in and said, hey, we want that. Hey, let us be. It's a lot like what's happening in hip hop or jazz or blues or in these other things. When you turn it up and you make it look so good, other people come in as if we didn't own that culture, right? We lost our best children because that's what God said. Oh, I'm sorry, I read that. If they stripped them of it, yep. I'm from the old school where things, yep. Disorganized crafter, they can. Harry's born. That's true. The word picnic has a real meaning, as in pick. Yes, I've heard that before. When they openly lynched us, our history should never be forgotten and not to repeat it. And I bet a lot of us in this room my family was involved in 2 that I know of massacres in Arkansas. My family's from Arkansas. And they came, one was the Elaine massacre when they were trying to get unionized. And the other one was the St. Charles, Arkansas. I think Elaine was around 1918, 1920. And St. Charles was 1904. And that was when one of my cousins wasn't being waited on, took a table leg off a table in a general store, beat a man with it because he wasn't being respected. And then they sent out their whole, patrollers. Hundreds of men gathered up all the men in town and put them in a warehouse. They were going to burn them all down. And, and on and on and on. And this isn't just my family. These things happen to keep people in their place. These things happen to landowners. These things happen to people who went to school. If you got too uppity, it was dangerous to be educated. And these Confederate monuments started coming up to tell African Americans, specifically in this country, we're putting up these people that were our rulers who were fighting to keep you enslaved to show you who you are and who we are. And, so then you had the great migrations north and all that stuff. And so again, we've been fighting for a lot, and not just African Americans, but people from all walks of life have been in this fight for Meghan. We just seem to have a kind of a similar journey because we all came over, Meghan's family, our family, for a lot of us, that we were in the bowels of those ships. We were, some of our ancestors jumped off of the side of those boats. Sharks would follow those ships from Ghana or from Benin or from Nigeria during the triangular trade. They would follow those ships all the way to the United States because they had plenty of food to eat. Schools and schools and schools. Can you imagine? So you knew when you jumped off the boat, you didn't, and a lot of them, people thought they were going to be eaten. They didn't understand. And they were like, we will give you meat. We will give you meat. Don't eat us. Please don't eat us. They didn't understand. And so, you pack us loose, loose or tight. If you packed us tight in the ships, more of us died, but you still had more bodies to sell at the end. And so all these things get translated. The dehumanization, I did the one episode about Meghan X Michelle, right? And just talking about the intersection between their traumas. They've both been dehumanized, right? Michelle has been compared to the same thing Archie's been compared to, the same animal. That's nothing new, right? King Kong, and I think I've said this before, the animal or the movie star that is King Kong came about because a black man from Great Britain, from the UK, Jack Johnson, married a white woman, and that's how that whole thing came about, and it's still going strong 150 years later. After 130 years, 40, I don't know, at least 100 years after the movie was made, King Kong, to put Jack Johnson, the heavyweight champion of the world, in his place with King Kong. But all they did was keep that thing going. And like if us in America were not allowed to read, we have an oral history. And we pass these things down to our children. We pass these stories down to our children because they are important. And we recognize when Meghan is being tortured, when there is a whole gang of people, in my mind, that are coming for her for things like the tag on her dress was called the Windsor. Are you kidding me? I don't even read the tags on my dresses. If I like it, I like it. Tag on my shoes. I don't know I can't tell you what that label, other than the brand. I can tell you what brand it is, because if they're comfortable on my feet, most likely I'll buy it again, but I don't care what they called it. I don't care what they called it. And so like this whole radicalization feels to me like I'm being attacked. It feels like my squad is being attacked. When they attack her, then we're going to fight back. We see you radicalized because we recognize how you had those same people 100 years ago. Their ancestors were the ones chasing us with patrollers. Apartheid is not that old, right? Show us your papers, Meghan. You're not Nigerian. What did they do to Barack Hussein Obama? Show us your papers. Show us all your papers. You're not a human. You couldn't have gotten into Harvard. You're not smart enough. Black people aren't smart enough. And did you see those two black girls from Texas? No, from Louisiana, who just solved the Pythagorean theorem? 2 different ways, and they say they have at least 4 or 5 different ways. Hadn't ever been solved except once. They solved it with trigonometry. 2 girls in high school in Louisiana have beaten the whole world. 2 little black girls. They don't understand the power. Like, just because you said that we are not thinkers doesn't mean it's so. Just because you said that we're, because everything we do just about gets cosplayed, monetized, commercialized, and taken. So it's nothing new. But when we see you come for one of ours, then some of us are going to have time, right? And Marshar often has time, right? Connie said, Marshar, your 40 acres was stolen from you. That's horrible. Connie, they took all of our, after the black Americans freed themselves as Buffalo Soldiers, right? We were promised 40 acres and a mule so that we could, like, what happens when you free a whole bunch of people and give them no resources for food? Oh, you're free? What does that mean? What are they supposed to do? Steal food? Yeah, and that's how the prison industrial complex comes about. Because if you commit a crime to try and eat, we will lock you up. And the crimes are going to be, given out, metered out at a higher rate, right? So yeah, they stole all of our 40 acres. And that's why we fight for reparations, to repair the things that have been done to us. And when you look inside of this country, every single system has systemic racism. Why would it not? If every system was built off the idea that we are worth less, then of course, And so the way we show up at work, the way we show up at school, the way we show up in general, and then at the same time, when we do it, see the hundreds, wow. When we do it, it's one thing, but when other people do what we do naturally, it's considered cool. And so when Meghan shows up, understanding that she's a hard worker, because what's her choice? You're going to be one of them lazy, shiftless Negroes, right? That's the other thing. She would rather be seen as a hard worker, I'm sure, and that's what she does, than what they were calling Kate, because that would have affected her 100 times as much. And so, she wrote an email at 5 a.m. If you ain't up reading emails, it didn't say get your so-and-so out of bed and handle this right now. Duh. So, Marshall says, county after slavery, the former slaves were promised 40 acres and a mule. Our preparations that our families never received, our reparations since being enslaved. Yeah, they came and took us. And then they say, we fight for our own freedom. And then we're given nothing to, and then we build all this stuff. And they take it, all these cities, all these inventions, everything gets taken. We don't have that kind of power to be able to hold on to things, or we didn't, especially 100 years ago, right? And so you see it just even in fashion and culture. You see how so-called American culture, which is Black American culture, is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And so when we say, we want to show up as ourselves, then other people are like, why can't we? Why can't we? So even the things that we create, we're not allowed to own. We're not allowed to gatekeep. And we do it anyway. And so we're gatekeeping Meghan. Because if any of us have experienced trauma, if any of us have experienced, and I'm sure we all have, even inside of all of our own communities in different ways, the ways colonization has affected people around the world, right? I see a lot of things, but it's everywhere. It's, and I've never traveled or heard a person that's come to the United States that didn't have something negative to say about Black American people. And you're like, dude, what you got on? Like that whole Tennessee fried chicken hot chicken, that's a Black woman who's still alive in Tennessee. They took her recipe and stripped it of her name, and they're calling it Tennessee. They ain't got nothing to do with Tennessee. She made that chicken for her husband that was out gallivanting and wanted to burn his mouth. And he sat there, this is so good, and ate it. And he's like, oh, it was good, but baby, can you make me some more? And so she did. She put it in her restaurant, and people came and ate it, and they took it. The same, Jack Daniels. Like, that Jack Daniels recipe, it comes from Africa, like West Africa, how we would filter our water through wood so that it would be clean and pure. And so Nearest Green is responsible, a Black man who's formerly enslaved, is responsible for Jack Daniels liquor. All of it. And if you ever go on a Jack Daniels website, if you do, they always have his information there. I'm not making it up. And this is one of the ones that we've been able to say, hey, no, that was actually ours. This is what we were doing back then. We brought it here. Why not do it with whiskey? And it gave it a smoother flavor. And worldwide, Jack Daniels. And we're saying, we have an oral history. Us ignorant folk over here who speak this language that that you guys want to take and use because you think it makes you cool, but somehow magically it makes us dumb if we speak Black English, right? But Jack Daniels learned, who was a poor kid, wanted to learn how to do it, and Uncle Nearest Green taught Jack Daniels from the time he was a child how to distill whiskey. And so that's where we get Jack Daniels. And that's why it has a Black label. Like, that's an ode to Uncle Nearest. And now there's a brand of alcohol, a brand of whiskey that the Uncle Nearest's family owns now, and it's one of the fastest growing. So if you ever see that, pick up a bottle. That's the OG, that's the original. And so there's just that. Let's see, what do we have up here? I've educated myself on all things I speak of, especially things that affect Black people. I teach my kids to do the same. It's best to be informed. It really is. And and we can help. We don't always feel like it or have time, but when we are feeling generous, if we feel like helping, we can. But when it comes to people like the Duchess, we're like, no, this is our girl. And she's a child of ours, she's a sister of ours, she's a cousin of ours. Literally, she did her DNA, And so, and that's even a thing, how can she be 43%? What do Nigerians' children look like when they have babies with people of European descent? They look like Meghan. That's how. Come on. That's how. They look like Meghan. My mom looked, and she would kill me. My mom could pass for white. She looked whiter than Meghan. I don't know what her DNA said. I know a lot about her history, but I know the things that happened to us. And I know most of us are, and when we talked about the triangular slave trade, when they went to that area, they dropped off the same tribes to that area. And if your family came from that area, you have a higher chance of being from that tribe. Whether it's Angola, whether it's Ghana, or, whether it's the tribes of Angola, tribes of Ghana, tribes of Liberia, wherever, they went in the same triangular trade pattern, getting, dropping off bodies of enslaved people, picking up cotton, and then going to get alcohol. And did the same thing in the triangular slave trade, right? And so, anyway, there's all that. Like, what do you guys think? Anybody have something to say? Like, I feel like I'm going to show these pictures again of King Charles, starting with our Duchess. We must support our own because they have stolen everything. Got my bottle of Uncle's liquor. Do you really? Yes. They do not know where they come from. Ooh. Okay. I took a tour of Jack Daniel's distillery. The samples were tried. They were great. Okay. Yeah. If you're ever down there, like in that area, go to Uncle Nearest's place. Maybe I'll put up a picture of that distillery. It's worth about $250 million in like 5 years, right? And so, it's a black woman and her husband and the descendants of Uncle Nearest who came together because they were master distillers of Jack Daniel's. So Jack Daniel's their family never tried to, they didn't mess with the ancestors, and they didn't mess with the descendants of Uncle Nearest. They have been employing Uncle Nearest's relatives, and they've been master distillers at Jack Daniel's for 100 years. And now they have their own. And their own liquor is competing pretty heavily. They say the rye is really good. The rye alcohol is the kind that most distillers want. Oh, you do? Disorganized Crafter says, I live 30 minutes down the road from Jack Daniel's. Wow. I want to get there sometime. I've never been there, but I definitely want to get there. Did you say you'd been to the distillery? Have you ever done that? Is that what you said? I know someone said that. Was that you? So yeah, that Jack Daniel's was an amazing person. Never tried to discredit Uncle Nearest. Worked with him. He was taught, and so he honored him. And there's some people that do the same thing. We did the same thing with rice in this country, right? Rice was something that we knew how to farm when our ancestors were living in West Africa. And in fact, South Carolina, that's how they got their money. They called it Carolina gold because the rice, and it was also a gold kind of rice, but they used more of the broken rice. And it made South Carolina wealthy. The South was the richest part of the United States for a long time because they traded in bodies, and they also used those bodies behind every body was knowledge. We were not just people living in Africa not doing anything. Like, we had these skill sets. And so we brought rice farming, and the mazes are still there from where we planted the rice 100, 200, 300 years ago. And you can see them from space. The things that our family members had planted. And my grandmother was a rice farmer and a cotton farmer. They were sharecroppers in Arkansas. And they got themselves free in the 30s and went to Ohio and had children for a long time, but they were working on, and our family homestead, our land was stolen in Arkansas by a guy named L.A. Black. Like, again, we have this oral history. If you haven't went out and gotten yours, like Meghan got hers via DNA, talk to your family members that are still alive. Get these stories, record them on audio, on video, however you can do it. Do not let them be lost. So, let's see what else we have. I'm 30% Nigerian, 13% Cameroonian, 9% Benin and Togo, but they're all in the same area. That is exactly the point. We didn't draw those lines, right? We didn't draw those lines. So just because they're Benin and Togo now doesn't mean that people weren't traveling, because a lot of us were nomads, right? And so, yeah, how does Belgium end up owning this and France end up owning that? it doesn't make sense. Good Wednesday evening to you, Professor Zinzi and everyone. Good evening to you, Joyce Anderson. Paula Dean ended up using this black woman's family recipes in her restaurant. Yes, she did. She did. Let's see. Marshar said, if anyone comes across a bottle of old Grandpappy bourbon, let me know. Love my Kentucky bourbon. And I make the best bourbon ball. Oh, okay, Marshar. You're going to have to, email me a recipe. I don't even know what those are. But yeah, you've been there. Okay. You've been to Jack Daniels. Have you been to the other one? Have you been to Uncle Nearest's place? Reba says, my great uncle Ortho was a bootlegger in Arkansas for many years. He sold liquor to Al Capone, was famous for his moonshine. We might be related, Reba Henderson. My family has been in Arkansas County, Arkansas for 150 years probably. At least some of them, maybe 200 years. And some of them are still there. So yeah, the bootlegging, we knew how to distill the alcohol so you didn't get sick. And we kept those things. If you look even at, Netflix has a new show. What is it called? It's about people. Is it called Unprisoned, maybe? Don't quote me. But it's about going into a prison and allowing people to rule themselves and what happens as a result of that. Ron said, my mother-in-law lived in Mississippi. Her mother's white father split the land equally. State of Mississippi tricked her mother, stealing her land, had water for the water rights. Yep. They our family's land is now the National Wildlife Reserve. They took our family's land too, in Arkansas. Isabel Joy says hello, Isabella. Hello. Joy, what are you cooking? Hello, everyone. So back to the radicalization, which is what I really did prepare. And how's this conversation going for everybody? We're touching on things and coming back to things. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the radicalization of, and I'm looking for that now, and I will see it, not now, of the media. Let me get off that page. And so, yeah, so do a lot of you know your family history? Those of you who are from the States, and those of you who are not from the States, do you know? Because for most people, they didn't just exist in one place for 1,000 years. There was some travel that happened, whether you live in Switzerland or whether you live in Nigeria, whether you live in Ghana, whether you live in Brazil. How many of you have found out anything about your family's genealogy? So anyway, I'll get back to, you can put that in the chat if you feel like it. Back to the whole concept of radicalization. You do? Okay. I wasn't sure. I know we have a little niche here. And I think I've decided that I want this to be our channel. And I want it to be focused on the Duchess and her family. And I want it to intersect with identity and the challenges that a lot of us face. Some of us African American, some of us from other backgrounds, some of us, West African, some of us East African, some of us European from France or wherever you're from. We have these intersections that tie us together. My expertise happens to be in my own family's history because that was a thing that my grandmother taught me and I loved it. Oh, grandmommy, please tell me more stories. And I think it's also, it's how we know about Jack Daniels and Uncle Nearest Green. It's how we know about indigo dye. It's how we know, how we knew how to take care of cotton. Not only did it grew from our head, right, naturally, but also we figured out how to get the thorns out so that it was a more usable product for us. And so, they talk about Eli Whitney and the cotton gin. He wasn't combing no cotton. We were. Haven't been to Uncle's place, but I'm going to look it up now. Yes, if I have these people that I love and I claim them as my own. So Jean-Michel Basquiat is one. Jeffrey Wright, the actor, does the promo. If you know Jeffrey Wright, if you haven't seen his latest movie, American Fiction, check it out. It's brilliant. In America, yeah. But he does all the not all, but he does a lot of the promotions for the alcohol, for Uncle Nearest brand. And it is a beautiful thing to hear Jeffrey Wright, in his own words, talk about Uncle Nearest whiskey. And you're just like I get mesmerized by hearing his voice. Let's see. I haven't, okay. Black people have always set the standard. Other people have imitated Elvis, definitely. Pat Boone, Bo Derek. Yeah, with her braids, right? Just looked it up. Uncle Nearest isn't, yep, he is in Shelbyville. Is that far from you? If it's not, maybe you could send us a photo if you go there, or you could just let us know how it goes if you decide to go there. I'll be really happy for you and wishing it was me at the same time. So Reba's saying hello. Yeah, because I think it's important for us to have safe spaces to be able to talk about how our lives intersect and how we intersect with the Duchess and why we fight so fiercely for her, right? 15, Uncle Nearest is 15 minutes down the road. Oh, really? Oh, wow. You just don't know how much I want to go there. I'm way out here. I have a friend who's in Tennessee, but she's far, far from there. Prudence says, hello, Professor Zins, and everyone else, Marshall, Church Nelly. Yeah, I want to go to that place. I want to visit that place. Did you know Jeffrey Wright's grandfather was a bootlegger? I may have heard that, but I don't know if it's outside of, it's not in front of my mind. I do know his mom was an attorney, and he's from DC. He likes go-go music. Let's see. I know my family is the Blackfeet Indian tribe out of Glasgow, Kentucky, Scottish, and White Castle, Louisiana. I plan to do a full genealogy study on where my family came from. I can't wait to do it. And I'll give you a tip. I mean, it might work for you, but what I did when I did my family's genealogy, we went to the Mormon church. And they had all the resources. And not only when we went to Arkansas, a bunch of us as a team, did we do that research there. They had better than the archives. But also when we came back, they were still sending me information and documents and still helping me. So I was like, wow. Yeah, Jeffrey Wright's family. Oh, I love him. He is amazing. Let's see. Well, the remaining 40% is England, Wales, LOL. So you're related to those people. Well, they're not really from there. They're German, though, right? And me and my cousins have been doing ancestry for a while. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so when Meghan talked about her genealogy, when she talked about her DNA, I was like, how can you say? Because I know I've heard other, Oprah has no European ancestry at all. And I think no Native American. I think she's strictly African, right? And so a lot of people were. And people like Shannon Sharp, if you've heard of him, he's also 94% Nigerian. So he would be like Meghan, except, cut that in half. So, it makes sense to me. Because I know that mixed people from West Africa also look a lot like Meghan. So it's not far-fetched to know that. And I know what my own mother looks like. And so that's a thing, right? So you guys are saying hello to each other. Yeah, so again, I was going to talk about the radicalization of the British media, the UK. I keep saying British. The UK media. And yeah, and so what seems to be happening now, I do believe they're radicalized. I do see the intense scrutiny that goes beyond anything normal. It feels dangerous to me the way they treat Meghan, right? Yala says, I'm East African, but from Canada. Okay, so yeah, a lot of those ships went to Brazil, I think, from East Africa for the most part. Some of them came here, but large numbers went to, I think, and populated Brazil. We black people are a melting pot. Yes, we are, right? And when we came together, not by choice, we formed a community. And we brought with us our culture. We weren't just created when we got to these places that we ended up. We were people before we got there. We came from kingdoms. We came from, peasants and kings and people alike. And so, like, I know in the U.S., they like to sketch our history as if it started when ships brought us to these shores. But our history started somewhere around, not too far from Kenya and Uganda over there in the fertilest part of the world where humankind comes from. So if you trace any of us back far enough, we're going to go there, right? We're going to go back to where you are in East Africa. Yala. We black people are, yep. Yes, we are. The hate against Meghan is a lesson to us all. Say more about that, Yala. Like, what is your interpretation? Because I heard James O'Brien talking about it, and I'm like, wow, that his arguments are always on point. He makes so much sense, and I'm just like, yeah, you said that. It is not unlike anything I've seen in the past. It is not like anything I've seen in the past, and I know that this has happened for generations. Like, if anyone remembers how Muhammad Ali was treated, and I definitely remember, like, the 94 Olympics or the 96 Olympics? 96. When Muhammad Ali lit the torch. Don't act like y'all went out here trying to have that man in prison. Don't act like y'all didn't strip him of his title. Don't act like y'all didn't try to take away his medals. Don't act like you didn't try to take everything from him because he refused to say that he was going to go to Vietnam, wherever in Vietnam that he would have served. And how could Dr. MLK King be the most hated man in America? Oh, and now I remember, like, he was the most hated man in America. I have an understanding that John McCain fought against him getting the national holiday after he's, and so many of us are in our soils around the country, right? Medgar Evers is in the soil. His blood ran down his family's sidewalk. He did that for us. Fred Hampton, who created food, not pantry, food, breakfast programs. If your kid has free lunch or lunch in their high schools and they can get it for free, or middle school or elementary school, that's a Black Panther project. Fred Hampton started that. If you go to the hospital and you have a patient's bill of rights, that is Fred Hampton, who formed the Rainbow Coalition. Jesse Jackson took it, who was trying to bring poor whites together and other Native Americans, all these populations together to fight against the system so that we all could have something. And he gets killed for free breakfast. He gets killed for daring to try and unite poor, white people, poor Black people, and Native Americans in order to make change in this country. No, we can't have that. We do have the free breakfast programs and free lunch programs. You will not likely hear that. The same, like I said, with the Patient's Bill of Rights. When you go to the hospital and they say you have rights, thank Fred Hampton, who was about 20 years old when 2021, he was a young man when he was killed. Because when people don't understand people or know anything about them, they would rather often kill them. We've seen it with Medgar Evers. We've seen it with Malcolm X. We've seen it with King. We've seen it with Hampton. We've seen it so many times we can't even count. I have a family member, my uncle, who was working with an organization called CORE with Idi Amin. People from East Africa, I'm sure, and others know him well. And Idi Amin was also donating money, giving monies to Black American organizations, civil rights organizations. Yes, he was a terror. He absolutely was. And he also donated... I know my uncle was in a New York Times article in the 70s talking about that. And Idi Amin gave him citizenship in Uganda and land and all of these other things. And my uncle was on the FBI's not 10, but he was out there. Like, they were, and he was in Angola, and he was doing a whole lot of other things, trying to get us free. Trying to free Black people, trying to free poor white people, trying to give us all the rights that we need. Because this, you know, the Irish were here and they were treated really poorly. And and then they figured out they could, when a black man lost his case, they figured out, in South Carolina, then we can import them all. They actually have no rights. The judge said this. He's not, even though he worked for his indentured servitude and worked it out, the person who he worked for extended it. And so the justice system said, you get to do that. I'm 55% European, 45% mixture of other groups. I forgot the names. I have them written down somewhere. Yeah, Joyce Anderson, like, check it out. It's important, right? Yala, why is the hate against Meghan a lesson to us all? As a black American, I'm well aware of the hate black people get. I missed that. I'm sorry, guys. I know us black women have to work 3 times as hard, so that scares a lot of people because we have to be smarter and stronger to survive. I've been to Muhammad Ali's gravesite and famously historic Cave Hill Cemetery, really, Louisville, Kentucky. It's a beautiful resting site, befitting a champion such as him. Ali was born in Louisville. I've seen, I've never been to his gravesite. I've seen, like, there's this, YouTube, you can watch almost anything. If you get a chance, there's an episode called Ali, what is it called? Ali something, This Is Your Life. And it has Ali, Joe Frazier, Ali's mother, one of Ali's ex-girlfriends, and he's like got his wife on the stage, and you can tell he's like, oh yeah, and you're like, Ali, sit down, that's your wife, be quiet. But it is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. So if you get a minute, and he looks just like his mom, if you get a minute, check out Ali, This Is Your Life, if you want to experience some joy. Let's see. Reba. Prudence says she agrees, right? Yeah, because if, and I think that's the thing in the UK too. Their system is based on class, but caste is also a part of class, right? If you are a blue blood and you sit atop, then that means that anybody who, the darker you get, remember the exotic blood again, right? Meghan and her exotic blood. Like, what? You come from that, right? Like, if she got it, you got it too. Because, if you understand science, right? And, like, it's just that part of you doesn't show. We all have other colors underneath our skin. That's how vitiligo shows up when the melanin dies, when the melanin's no longer there, we're all white underneath. All of our eyes, like if I had a friend who got bleach in her eye, it was blue, one brown eye, one blue eye, because it's underneath there. We're all humans underneath all of this. It is just, if you're in Africa, the melanin stayed to protect you from the sun. If you move to Europe, in 10,000 years, it went away because you didn't need that kind of protection. You needed thicker skin to survive the cold. And so during natural selection, like if you look at people in the Inuit tribes who are considered Eskimos, they have extremely thick dermis, right? Because they need to be protected from that cold weather. A lot of people from Africa, theirs is not all these things evolve over time, and the people who survive have these characteristics. And we emphasize, like we saw the genocide in Rwanda with the Tutsis and Hutus. And, so we understand that small differences can be emphasized in order to put down a whole group of people. And that's horrible. Like, put down a whole group of people because my dermis shows as brown and your dermis shows as something else. Dude, you got the same thing underneath, right? So what else do we have? Any other, and then we get it from each other. It's a shame. There's so much history in Louisville. Abe Lincoln was born there too. I visited a plantation he visited before becoming president. It was surreal walking down the roads that people like me couldn't. Yeah. And like all the hoopla over the Lincoln Bible. I don't know if you guys remember hearing any of the hoopla surrounding it. But what people fail to understand, the Lincoln Bible was given to him by black students. I think it was from Fisk. So these black students, after I think it was right after enslavement, gave Lincoln this Bible. So the Lincoln Bible was really a gift from these black students. And so like, it's like, okay. So like all of these things, people giving gifts, people appreciating, because, you know, there's lots of controversy even about Lincoln. And had he not done what he did, I believe we would have gotten our freedom. It would have taken longer. And I thank God he did. And that's why, like, if you go to church on New Year's Eve and if you go, that is a tradition, because the enslaved people were going to be freed at midnight that night. So we have the watch night that is dedicated to the freedom of black people in the Americas. I go to church almost every year on New Year's Eve and celebrate with the people in my church, right? It's a beautiful thing. If you've never done watch night, that's where it comes from. It's a jubilee ceremony, right? And it had to do with people being freed on that day. So there's so much history. We are all tied together. We all have intersecting identities. We have intersecting trauma, and we know it when we see it. And so when we show up for our Duchess, we show up because we recognize and we feel, at least for me, I mean, you can put a 1 in the chat if you feel the same way, guys. And if you haven't liked it, I know I don't hardly say that. Please, if you like the content, like the chat, you know, and apparently that helps. But if you wouldn't mind too, like, put a 1 in the chat. What was I just lost my train of thought, thinking. I went so far off the deep end. Oh, if you recognize by showing up in a space ever that you felt like you weren't wanted, can you put a 1 in the chat? Let's see what Yala says. Disorganized crafter, we get it from each other. Nobody's ever shown up in a space. Nobody wants to type a 1. Is that a lot to ask? If you've shown up in a space where you didn't feel welcome, you don't have to talk about it, but if you've ever had that as an experience. Prudence, my family is big on history, and we would visit places where it took place. We have to know history to remember it and to keep the bad parts from happening again. Absolutely. I see 0 1s, guys. So what grade do I give you guys today on, like, your quizzes? Nobody's had that as an experience. They showed up and they didn't feel okay. Yeah, I know. Like, when I show up to interview for a job, I get nervous. I'm like, I know that I have the skill set. I know I do. I don't just believe it. Like, that's not a thing for me to not know that. And I don't know how I'm going to be, you know, how it's going to feel when I show up. So I have some anxiety. Nancy, thank you. Yala, thank you. Joyce, thank you. Sharon, thank you. Louise, thank you. Or Louise, I don't think we've heard much from you tonight, Louise, have we, or have I missed a lot of it? Disorganized crafter, thank you. Yeah, because, like, and when I show up and I see another person that is from my same background or from a different ethnic background, it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable, because I feel like, okay, maybe they won't have a problem with me. Maybe I will, you know, get this job, that I know that I'm qualified for. Yala says, I'm a professor. There's a heart that's on my screen that hides a little bit of what you guys say. I take session jobs to be safe. Yeah, and it sucks, right? That I prefer working for agencies too, because it's like, all right, if I get tired of that, or if I feel like there's some bias against me, I'm on to the next one. I agree, Marshara, but I'm like that too by reading a lot of history books. I think I'm missing you guys' conversation. But yeah, like, reading helps. Reading is fundamental. But Meghan, I think, you know, Tina and Michelle, what they tapped into was what we've all felt. I found a great-great-grandfather who flew for the Confederacy. I knew my great father left his family. Now I know why. Of course they disowned him. Ooh, that's a lot. Who fought for the Confederacy. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot. And that history, you know, they just celebrated Confederacy month or something. Is that this month or was it last month? I have remote work, and I have to say my organization is 85% African American. It's glorious to see. Yeah. So in this, and isn't it like Meghan? I think there are moments in time, and I'm gonna say this too. There are moments in time when I feel and have felt so much better about the world, and Meghan was one of them. And then boom, like I'm like, oh, not that I felt she was accepted, because from the beginning they were always on her, but there was still a part of me that felt like maybe Queen Elizabeth is trying. The UK, I definitely felt like maybe they're going in the right direction. That shifted. And the election of Barack Obama, when President Obama was elected, and Michelle said, for the first time in my adult life, I'm proud of my country. I got that. I understood that. Because I know my mom didn't believe it could happen. And then at the same time, you want it to happen, especially for the kids. But then you're in fear that somebody's going to do something to him to hurt him. Right? We don't want that, because we've seen it so many times. And I know for me too, that was a fear. But I remember staying up and like I was watching and watching, just like I watch Duchess now. It was Barack Obama, like, oh, I'm watching it. But I was a teacher and I never said so to my students. I'm like, no, I don't teach you to think what I think. I teach you to think. Marshall says, I've been on a motorcycle camping trip with hundreds of white bikers at a rally. I was the only black woman there, but they gave me the utmost respect and called me Marshall, Queen of the Nile. See, that's wonderful. That is so wonderful. Like, Marshall, you know how to pick your people, right? And people, most people are good. I believe most people are good. And I think the radicalization comes from you missing some part of yourself. Or if your self-esteem is tied to, I have to be over these people can't be good, or women can't be, I hear like these, if there's a passport bro in the chat, please leave. But these people who feel like they have to be above people. And because if you standing on me, what did Toni Morrison say? I'll have to look up the quote, but she said something about, if you're standing on my back or my neck, has to do with, it's tied to your whole self-esteem. What happens when I get myself free? She didn't say that exactly, but I'm asking, what happens when I free myself? If your self-esteem is tied to me not being smart, what happens when I show up? I'm the exceptional? No, because I see my family, right? And so our self-esteem, and I think these younger kids, they'll have it for the most part. They've got it. They are so good. I love this new generation. And they are aging like sour milk, unfortunately, because they are so stressed out. I see these Gen Zers and millennials, and they look like they're in their 40s and 50s, dare I say. I'm like, you guys cannot be like, oh, you bump into them, you think they're your age. Like, what? You guys need to take a break, because it is stressing you out. And at the same time, they are out here doing this work. And they're fighting and they are trying. Like, I haven't seen this. I think my mom talked about it. I know my mom talked about her peers in the 60s fighting against, like, all of these things. And now I feel like the millennials, I think especially the millennials, and then the Gen Zers behind them, they are really out here in these streets. It's the few with the loudest voices, which is a shame. Yeah. And like, the fact that their self-esteem is tied to such painful ideologies. Like, oh, you have to be less than for me to be, for me to feel like I'm okay. It's really kind of sick. It's the few, see, this thing is moving, with the loudest voices. Yep. Yeah, they're really good people of every color. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. I see people on how they conduct themselves. I don't judge by the color of their skin. Not judging is important, right? We have to see it, right? Like, I know there are people out there who say, I'm like, are you colorblind? Are you just blind? Because I want you to see me. I want you to see me as a whole person, a thinking person, a person who can contribute, and a person who needs to be poured into also. Like, I'm not here to be the mule of the world and to do the work. I also need to have love and joy and goodness poured into me too, so that I can show up and be my best self along with you, right? The new generations are fantastic. Yes, my Queen Marshar, some of these people are nice. My car died on the highway. Then white bikers, Hells Angels, assisted in pushing the car from the main road to the side while I waited for AAA. Yeah, because, essentially we are people. And a lot of these biker gangs, a lot of these kids who are, and men who are in these places, a lot of them grew up poor. And in the same communities that we grew up in, and have a parallel experience, and have neighbors and friends and even family members who are. Watching my kids, how proud they are of being Black is overwhelmingly beautiful, Yala says. Yeah, it is. Like, to love everything about themselves and that not mean that it's anything against somebody else. No, like, I can love chocolate, I can love strawberries, I can love cherries, and it don't mean I have to hate, sugar, like, because I love these things. Like, I can do more than one thing. I can love myself and love humanity. Because loving yourself is going to shore you up. Loving yourself is going to allow you to love other people, to show other people how to live and how to love. And part of that is also going to probably be centered around boundaries. Like, nope, you don't get to treat me like that. You don't get to treat Meghan like that. I'm a person, I'm a human being, I'm deserving of dignity and respect. Don't you see me when I show up? Don't you see how good I am? Don't you see how kind I am? Don't you see how proud and smart I am? Don't you see that I'm doing these good things in the world? Yeah, respect that, right? Respect that, and let us all do well together. Let us celebrate ourselves and our differences. Lady Rose, that's so cool. The biker women who I hung out with at that rally were really protective of me. When my then boyfriend weren't around, he's now my hubby. Hells Angels are regular people too. Absolutely. They come from our community. I grew up in an area it was mostly just Black people and white people. And my family had been there for generations. They have been there in our home for generations. And so, we played together. We did lots of things together. And our parents talked to each other. We went to school together. We listened to the same music. We partied sometimes together. We studied together. We did lots of things together. We are people, in fact. And no one group of people needs to be put down so that another group of people can stand up, right? When we love people from different backgrounds, that can take work, right? Sometimes, like Harry said, he has biases. If you have a partner from a different, place in the world, they're going to be biases. And so what do? You have to let love lead, and you have to check them and let them know what's up. Like, no, that ain't it. Lady Rose, okay, let's see. I'm a ride or die. I am Meghan Markle. Yes, I am Marshar. Yes, we haven't said that tonight. I am Meghan Markle. Like, we do this work because of her. We are because she is. She is because we are. We are Meghan Markle. Shout out to Spike Lee, who did that for, Malcolm X when he made that movie. And then Nelson Mandela. I am Malcolm X. And then the children. And then us. And we are Meghan Markle, we are Doria, we are the ancestors, we are each other. We are all made of the same stuff. And when we are good as by ourselves, we can then go out and be good to each other. And just because we know these things or we do these things, it's no shade against anybody else. Like, loving myself, loving where I come from, loving my people doesn't mean, why would I love my people and myself and hate somebody else? Why would I use all that energy? And that's why, the whole UK media thing is so exhausting. Y'all think y'all really, there's nothing y'all can do, really. Meghan's always going to have a tribe. Because that's how we were raised. We were raised to be a community. You can't give us the money to make us hate her. I mean, you're going to find some Clarence Thomases or whatever, people of that ilk everywhere. But for the majority, like, he ain't coming to the cookout. He don't even get a plate. Candace Owens, no. Like, you don't get to say all the things you say about, like, why is Juneteenth? It's a ghetto holiday. It is about African American freedom. It is a holiday that literally celebrates our independence from the chains. Like, I ain't got to work on this plantation no more. Okay, good, deuces, right? For all these hundreds of years that we were captives and we were held on the land, and you call that, yeah, it is ghetto. It is ghetto. It's a community event. It is a black community event, and ghetto ain't negative just because you say so. Define it however you want, but you don't ever get a plate again, right? You just don't. You just don't. You don't get to say these things about us and our people, and us say, okay, Candace, you've repented. Yeah, you can repent, but you still, like, don't get no plate. Popeyes is selling, shrimp every day. Popeyes got them same French fries, and you can doctor up that potato salad. I know your mama taught you how. Just do that. Maybe one of your aunties or somebody in your family or a neighbor might have some pity on you and make you a plate. But you don't get to demonize my people and weaponize all these negative things against us, because all the bad you've done in the world has been magnified. It's been taken to people's houses. People have had thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens, millions of conversations based on the garbage that you spew. You've put too much bad out there. It will take the rest of your life to get over that part, right? If ever, because everything you've done has gotten magnified in the wrong direction. And so, when we show up as definitely Meghan stands, it is also because, it's because we love her, and we also see ourselves in all that trauma. Like, like what? She married this guy, the sexiest man alive. I think that he could easily be, like I say. I've said that a few times. But that's the whole, like, my girl, Go Taste and See sent me this Black Wife Effect post from, I think it was a YouTube short. It might have been TikTok. But this whole thing about how black women get with men from other ethnicities or races, and they give him a glow up. Like, if anybody's seen Harry, not that he wasn't cute, but Harry was not the sexiest man alive before he got with Meghan. I'm sorry. He didn't have the fit, the style is what the, kids call the clothes, the fit, right? He didn't have the haircut. Now he's got his fresh cut. He's got his, like, look at him on the screen. Like, my goodness, I'm not going to look at him on the screen, but he looks so sexy on the screen, walking with his swag. Look at those shoes. They're black on black on black, and his shoes are still shining through that, like, through the dark. I'm like, wow. Look at the beard. Look at the shirt. Look at the coat. Look how the pants are fitted. Yes, he's got that glow up, right? Marshar says, Juneteenth isn't ghetto. It's a celebration. Unfortunately, in Texas, the slaves didn't know until they were freed until 2 years after the fact. But this holiday should be celebrated by all black Americans. It absolutely should be. Like, if you don't celebrate your own independence, what do you choose to celebrate? If not that, what's your holiday? If not your independence? They're going to reap what they sowed. 100. Keep it up. Yeah, you keeping it 100. It does. It, like, they are. And when you look at the downfall, and you guys, if you want, you can put some names in the media. Again, I love that Angela Levin interview where she just got, like, oof. I was like, what? And I only, like, when I made one of the pods, I only put the initial part of it. Maybe I'll go back and put the part where he called her a troll. I was like, what? Angela, you are a troll. I was like, what? Marshar says, Harry's so fine now. Meghan brought out his true confidence. Yes, she did. Like, but if that is a real thing, like, if you've ever been married to or dated someone outside of, if you're a black woman specifically, look, like when you look at the befores, maybe I was going to do one for Harry and put up like his befores and then show after the Meghan glow up, like it's called the black wife effect. I think was what they're calling it. So if you get a minute, take a look. But these guys mostly look like they're pretty nerdy. And after they get the glow up, you're like, dang, right? And so, yeah. And like Harry before, Harry was cute. But Harry wasn't looking like a whole, what does he look like? A whole sandwich. Like, dang, Harry. Like, just the way the pants fit, just the way the coat fits, just the way the shoes. And you can tell, like, in a lot of pictures, even stills, the way, like, he walks has swag. I saw him, like, dapping up some black dudes and then turning around and dapping up some white guys. It was hilarious because he gave, like, black guys a specific kind of dap, and then he turned. I was like, oh, my God, he's on code. Like, Harry's, like, a quick study, clearly, because he's like, okay. And when he was in Nigeria with the kings, like, he looked so proud of his wife. And we all know Meghan is brilliant. Number one, she's beautiful, yeah. But number one, Meghan is brilliant, and she's kind, and she's beautiful. And Harry has been transformed, I think, in a lot of ways because of his wife. I mean, Princess Diana was beautiful, and she was kind, and she was also human like we all are. And when she passed away, he went through so much. His father didn't shore him up in a lot of ways. And so, of course, when people need medicine like hugs and they don't get it, like, even your grandma don't hug you, dang, that's messed up. Like, where do you go? And so he chose drugs and sex and whatever. And, like, even with his partners that he had, how they went through I think it was Cressida's records to find out her medical history to see if she had a child and, or had ever been pregnant. Just ridiculous. Just by, nature of being with him, because they feel like they own him. And she's like, deuces, not doing that. And then get with Meghan, and she's not only, an outsider as an American, and she's also, whether they can see it or not, like most black Americans, and if you're from Iran, I'm sure you can tell, like, people like, oh, you can tell that they have Iranian blood. I know people in the U.S. often tell me, oh, like, I'm of Mexican descent in California, and I'm like, oh, I couldn't tell. So, people recognize often their people, so most black people probably to see her are like, yeah, she's black. But that's not what they saw. But if she was Welsh or she was Irish, they probably would have said, yeah, the way the eyes this, or the way so we recognize our tribes often. Reba says, Harry was in a shack with ill-fitting clothes, holes in his shoes, not eating at a table. Harry was rescued from half-life. Meghan has upgraded Harry with tailored suits and swagger. Yes, was it the cottage? Where was he? Where he couldn't stand up? Like, what? He couldn't stand up in his own house on the second floor. I'm like, this is ridiculous. You can't stand. I couldn't stand in that. I couldn't be in that house. I'd be like, you know what? I'm going over here. Because what effect does that have on your body when you can't stand up, right? I tell you, Meghan wouldn't have to do a thing because I would tap down on any skeezer trying to make a move on Harry. All aunties and sisters of the squad will do that too. Yeah, and we're going to protect it. We're going to protect anybody who's trying to pull up on Harry. We're going to protect Meghan. Like, wait a minute, dude. Like, nah, that ain't it. That ain't it. That ain't it. Because we love, for the most part, we love to see families be able to be families. And you can see the value of the Duchess or the Princess and the Prince. And you see their value even in Nigeria. It's like, we're going over there. We want the Invictus Games. We love you, Harry. And we know what they're doing. Don't think for a second that the Nigerian princes and kings were not made aware by their family members. And even they read, they watch, media. They knew how she was being treated. And they came together and said, okay, we got you. So now what y'all gonna do? She's, this title, I think her Nigerian title is, it should come first. Like people who've done the Hajj or people who are ministers, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. I think the princess, she's Princess, in my mind, she's Princess Duchess Meghan. Because the princess is a higher title. So Princess Duchess Meghan, whatever degree she has, she's Princess Duchess Meghan Markle, right? And I tell you, Meghan wouldn't have to, oh yeah, I read that one. Because, can you imagine what would happen if there was even a minor scandal? Harry even looked or checked out another woman, and someone caught it on camera. Oh, proof. I saw this one, and it was ridiculous. Like, when President Obama was president, they were like, he was looking at this woman's behind. And so from one angle, it did look, I was like, okay. And then you saw the actual angle, and he was looking in a completely different direction. And so if there hadn't been other photographs, then that would have been the proof, right, that they needed. And so now while they're creating these things, in the meantime, where is Catherine? Do we know? I mean, I'm genuinely concerned about where she is. Because they said Easter, and Easter's come and gone. For us over here in the U.S., Memorial Day is about to come and go. Juneteenth is about to come and go. And we haven't seen her really. I'm not even sure that we saw. I can't say. I'm going to say allegedly, but I can't say that picture on the bench. And was the lady in the, that was skipping outside, was that ever explained? Do we know? Nottingham Cottage, built in 1600s. William had 4 homes by then, but they didn't want Meghan to have Frogmore. They're pissed about Montecito. The 4 kings of Nigeria have my heart now. Yeah. What do you think about those? I saw a few Nigerian people who look like paid media talking about, I'll have to see the DNA test. It looks like them also using African descended people to get what they want. And even if she showed it, it still wouldn't be proof enough for them. M's title is through her husband, and so H will have to give up his. The title is not the issue because the absence of the title will make no difference. Okay. Princess of Nigeria, Duchess of Sussex. Yes, absolutely. She is. That princess is yeah, I got two titles. I got two. And you might be able to take the one, but wouldn't it be hilarious if they managed to be able to pass a bill or whatever, and then other Ethiopia was you know what, we're gonna do this thing, or the royal family of Ethiopia, or one of the other royal families Swaziland, the king of Swaziland is going to make her the princess of Swaziland. And so you're okay, so you've got, because I could see that happening easily. All right. And so, she had no idea that this was going to happen. But I think for people who've taken the time to listen to her and to watch her, there's no denying that she's a wonderful person. And if you have to scrutinize, my panties, really, if you have to scrutinize that much, then it's not a me problem. It's a you problem. When you start looking at tags, and you start looking at fruit, and you start and all these photographs that they manipulate to make her not look pretty. She's beautiful. And I guess they're going to be manipulating audio because she's brilliant. As beautiful as she is, I think she's more brilliant than she is beautiful. So I think if it was a scale of, if you had to rank them, her brilliance and kindness rank above her beauty, and her beauty is off the charts. So, she's a true triple threat. And what can you do with that? Let's see. Come on now. A man is going to be a man, and he has eyes and will look, but that doesn't mean he'll cheat on his wife. Besides, Harry is so in love with Meg. I believe her essence in the air is in the air. Hebrews. I believe that too, Marshall. I just think that Harry can't afford to look. He'd have to look in shades, because if he dared to, right? If he dared to look, it's all over the. I mean, I know I look. I definitely look, but it would be all over the tabloids, and the expectation that she is not a member of a governing body, like literally, she's not responsible for the UK. She's not responsible for anything in the US, and yet she is under the kind of scrutiny that is mostly UK media. I mean, you see some of it here, but more of it is more favorable, right? But some of it over there, I mean, 90-something% of it coming from there is something else. And so those are Nigerian Canzoans. They do not count because they are ignorant of their own history. Those Nigerian kings are not confused at all their purpose. They are gatekeepers for white supremacy. Whew. Yeah, like, it's like the silver, 30 pieces of silver. After you use those coins, what you gonna do? Like, when you ain't got no money for food, who's going to feed you and clothe you? Or you might get that, but is it worth the cost that you have to pay to be Judas, right? You're willingly taking down this woman and participating. Like, we saw her disintegration and deterioration when she was over there. Like, that interview she did with the UK media, journalist, when she was talking about, no one's asked me that question, my heart was broken. And that's when she was experiencing SI, like, pregnant. And you're just like, what? Have you no compassion for this woman who's carrying, well, if she's not able to carry the child to term, and then the whole conspiracy, again, about her not being a woman, and her not, you're like, are you kidding me? You think that the people in the UK are going to, of course, everything about her was scrutinized and tested and judged, and that's why she had those babies so quickly. Oh, I saw that thing move. Dude, like, we live in an AI world. Like, those are her kids. I'm just like, wait, what? Like, some things I can't even engage on because they're just so, but then I look at Michelle Obama, and I recall very well that the same things that were said about Meghan were also said about Michelle Obama, that Malia and Sasha are not her children. Because Michelle Obama is, and they dehumanized her to that point. You're just like, are you serious? Again, we've seen all the playbook with Barack, with Michelle, with Meghan. Only they're doing everything to Duchess Meghan that they did to, a couple, to Michelle and to Barack and to other people. Like, they're using the same playbook, except they're throwing the whole playbook that they have for every black person on Meghan. So if she never experienced racism as a kid, good for her. But she's definitely gotten it back now in spades, right? And yeah, I was just so surprised that I saw, okay, I see a 1. Thank you, Delphine. Hi, everyone. First time on this channel. Yeah, thank you. Welcome. We're just chatting about, we originally started talking about the radicalization of the UK media against the Duchess, and then we've talked about things like contributions and how people from marginalized communities get treated in this world. And so we've seen it with our Duchess. We've seen it with Michelle and Barack Obama. We've seen it with, name the person, you can definitely see the trauma, right? You love Rachel, Meghan, Meghan Markle so much. Why don't her and Harry care about the... Yeah, we can care about, caring about different people doesn't mean you have the capacity to take care of every person. Why doesn't Meghan have a charity in East Cleveland? Why doesn't Meghan have a charity in South Florida? Why doesn't Meghan, like, if you, like Toni Morrison said, if there's a book you want to write that hasn't been written yet, write it. If there's a charity that you want to start that hasn't been started yet, start it. You do that. But we don't get to put the things that we want for other people to do off on them. If you see that there's a need, fill it. She's not a president. She's not the head of a kingdom. She's not Joe Biden. she's a mother. She's a philanthropist, but she's not a god. So if you think that these things are important, I would advise you to write your senators, your governors, your presidents, and people in the countries where these things are happening who really have the capacity to do those things. Right? So that's what I'm going to say about that. Fight to be invited at the table of promotion. The look of sadness on Meghan's face during that interview, yes, out of me. Then her almost deleting herself while carrying Archie and her losing her unborn baby. That Jack thing and how she said she fell out. I was living in that and working, and I think I was in school in Santa Barbara at that time, around that time. And I almost worked at Cottage Hospital as a therapist where she was. And I was like, dang, I should have taken that job. I might have been there on that day. So, but just like to be in close proximity, because we see that she provides a blueprint for all of us to do those, blueprint kind of things. Like, we can't be everything to everybody. But these people like Duchess Meghan, people like Michelle Obama, people like Maya Angelou and Fred Hampton and all these people that we talked about earlier, they are the blueprint. And if we see that something needs doing and we don't do it, shame on us, right? Shame on us. Did I miss something, Dana? I love that statement. The mess started from the incident between Kate and Meghan over disagreement pertaining to Meghan's wedding preparation choice, wanting the flower girls to wear untraditional bobby socks. That's stupid. It's her wedding. And that's a very American thing, to wear bobby socks and certain kinds of t-shirts. And yeah, to have certain, that's just like the people who sang at the wedding. Like, it was a very black wedding, if you ask me. The pastor was on one. He was hilarious. The choir was booked forever, singing Aretha Franklin's song outside the church. All of it was beautiful. And, like wearing white to another. Now, see, I'm about to get petty up in here. Wearing white to another woman's wedding? Like, what? Like, for what? Like, that. Well, in the U.S., it's an unwritten rule that you don't wear white to people's weddings. Like, unless they invite you to. Unless they say our dresses are white, which would be odd. Or, all the stuff. Bobby socks. I'm sorry, girl. Like, if it's that significant to you, then maybe. But it would have been interesting not to have Charlotte in the wedding. That would have been seen as a slight, even though we had no, and then the whole thing about she made Kate cry. I'm like, what? And then that turned out to be the opposite, and then there's no sympathy. She shouldn't be correcting it. That's on Meghan not to correct it. Like, she was silent for so long. And she sat in suffering and almost ready to, as you said, delete herself. And no sympathy, right? Lady Rose says, Meghan isn't a politician who has the power to change your life. Do your research about the charity's role in society. Okay. Yeah, we all do what we can in whatever ways that we can. And it's like when President Biden speaks about something, it's like, oh, why didn't he talk about this? Because he can't talk about every single thing in the universe. You're going to be left out. But if he covers about, 80% of the things that are going on, then that's, we just have to be happy with that, because we all have niches that we fit into, and we want things, importance to be, like lights to be shined on them. And we also have the power of our congresspeople and senators. I know I've used mine. When stuff has happened to me in these United States, in this state of California, and I didn't feel like I had the power that I needed, what did I do? I'm calling my congressperson. I'm calling my senator. I called Kamala Harris's office when she was a senator. Didn't care. Both offices, one in D.C. and one in San Francisco. Yep. And even though I didn't get her, I got a person who talked to her every day, and I got my stuff handled. Like, that is a resource that you can truly use. And I remember calling a senator, and what was it about? It was somebody was it in Missouri? It might have been Minnesota. I can't remember. But something happened that was positive, and I was like, thank you so much for voting for blah, blah, blah. I bet you've been getting calls like this all day. And they're like, no, you're actually the first one to tell him thank you. I was like, what? We'll tell him thank you 10 times. I really appreciate whatever it was. And so if you haven't tapped into that power, I'm here to say that part of voting in this country, and even not voting, means that you are represented by someone in Congress and in the Senate. And if you are in this country and you write a letter or you call or you send an email directly to their office, I've called, that's been my traditional way, and gotten numbers and whatever, like, okay, give me a number so I can say that I know you've heard from me, or send me a confirmation email. Then things get done. So, let's see. Kate was tripping. Did I miss any of them? Kate was tripping. She thought she had 2 husbands with Harry. She's delusional and missing. I know that's Marsha. I knew it was Marsha. There's another photo of Meghan and Harry. Save the children. Yeah, like, we don't even know all the things they did, right? Marsha, I agree with your comment. We can make a difference. Do your part. I'm sick of people dictating who should do what and sit back and criticize. Show up, do good, whenever, wherever. It's all of our responsibilities in this country to do our part, in the world, to do our parts wherever we can. If you see a person, like when I'm at restaurants, I often feed people who are outside, like without being prompted, like, oh, you want some food? I got you. Come on. Like, what you want? I got X amount of dollars, even, if I don't have a lot of money, whatever, like I have a budget and I can get you a meal. And I would love to do that. So I show up and do those kinds of things. Let's see. Charities benefiting from American public contributions are not allowed to participate in politics. Paul, learning is fun. Fundamental? That's, yeah. You can though be in China and be taking out ads and stuff like that. Davida Paul, you played yourself. Why are you here? How about you finding? Is somebody a troll in here? Like, are they quiet at least? So yeah, like, we've been out here doing what they call yeoman's work in the squad, and it has taught us and it has helped us to be able to help Duchess Meghan. And again, like, when I see, I think it's Anita, she shows up at the events. I think she's on that side, and I hear her voice, Meghan, Sussex squad is here. I'm Sussex squad. I'm just like, oh, I feel that excitement. I'm like, me too. I'm over here in my house, but I'm Sussex squad. We love you. And we've got you. We see these bad things happening to you. And just like a human being, we are not going to stand by and let a human being be harmed. And if we can, when we can, this is the thing that touches our hearts in this space. Meghan Markle. We are Meghan Markle in here, right? Can I get an I am Meghan Markle in the chat, please, guys? Can I get an I am Meghan Markle in the chat? Because in this space, we are Meghan Markle. And mess with us, at your own peril. Like, we are, like, spiritual people. We are loving people. And you see, like, the UK tabloids trying to find, you see the UK tabloids trying to, I'm trying to see what's happening here. Last I checked, it's a free country, and for a man, Nadia, you're showing your truth. So, this is a place of, this is a place of love for the Duchess. So if you're not really on that, if you're not really, if you don't have that vibe, you're free to watch. You're free to watch. And what did Nipsey Hussle say last time that I checked? There was 5 chains on my neck. There was no smut on my rep last time that I checked. This is my space. This is a Sussex Squad space. Last time that I checked. Okay? And so we don't come into spaces to create chaos. We come into this space and we are brilliant people. We are loving people. We are kind people. And we all got some Kendrick Lamar in us. We all, I mean, like, the squad, the people who come in here who listen to me, who vibe with me, they all know that I got some Kendrick in me by now. And I show up in a way that where I'm prepared, where I'm thoughtful, where I'm kind, where I'm compassionate, where we try and learn and make the world a better place. And sometimes we have to take out the trash. So we're going to be Meghan Markle in this space. We're going to be kind. We're going to be gentle. We're going to be generous. We're going to be loving. And, like, sometimes we got time. And that's not what we want. We don't want to have time. We want to be able to be in our safe space and at peace. So, today I'm trying, because Saturday, I don't know if you were here, like Saturday I was, I think, I don't know that Marshar was here. I think that I took on Marshar as a spirit. I am Meghan Markle. I am Meghan Markle all day, every day. I am Meghan Markle. So, yeah, they need to, if they can't be respectful in this space, guys. So, did you guys, any of you do any homework over the week? Anybody tweet? Anybody watch a lot of other channels? Like, what did you do for yourselves this week as far as mental health, physical health, the squad? Like, did you get on and did you push back against any trolls? Did you listen to any? Now, see, I'm thinking about Kendrick, guys. I don't know. Did anybody do any, like, looking at the Kendrick Lamar beat down? This is not so peaceful. Did anybody look at the Kendrick Lamar debate where, not now I can't even talk. Did anyone look at the Kendrick Lamar battle between him and Drake? Did anybody do that? And if you did, what are you guys thinking at this point? Because I think Kendrick, like, you definitely don't want to make him an enemy. Let's see. Hi, you already are that low. What is happening? I'm missing something. You already are that low. Hi, Lady Win, Russian, Novidi. My squaddies have a blessed and glorious. Thanks, Professor C. Novi said not interested. Everybody take a deep breath. Like, what did Michelle say? When they go low? Yeah, it's something to do with, I can't imagine being in a space where I just wanted the vibe to be like trash. It's just not cool. So, how'd you guys feel about this podcast, guys? Was this what you want? Is there something that you want more of, less of? I need to make some people mods. If anybody's interested, send me an email. And if you've been here consistently, and we can chat about that. And yeah, so for me, you don't know what the beef is about? Oh, really? It's about someone coming into someone else, like, it's about someone maybe potentially being accused of using people in order to get a come up and then discarding them after you have said come up. So I'm going to use this culture for this and this and this, and then I'm going to talk about these people like that, and I'm going to do black women like this, and I'm going, like, there, like when, this is sort of an aside, when Megan Thee Stallion was shot by Tory Lanez in the feet, taking Tory Lanez's side, when having an affair with someone else's girlfriend and breaking up families, and just not having cultural competency and going into spaces, being like a trash person for years and years and years, allegedly, and then after that happens, saying mean things about Kendrick, for example, and his family, because he's pretty like solitary. He's not on social media, and it gets back, and then having to defend those things, and then Kendrick has so much credibility that it seems like Drake's career might be done. It might be done after this battle, because when you come for good people, generally society's going to listen to the good people, right? Take that person's side. So yes, Marshall, I know. You eat trolls for breakfast. Y'all can go high. I love going low. That's what trolls understand. Oh yeah, Marshall, you are that girl. You are that one, right? Remember Professor Zia? Yep. So Marshall, Lady Windrush is saying hello to you. So today's podcast, we've been going for almost 2 hours now. So I'm gonna say that this has been a wonderful experience today. I'm so glad that you guys showed up. I might do one more pop-up this week. Again, I'm challenging myself to do this because I do have anxiety, and I also enjoy being with you. And so just like with any other task, I have to practice what I preach. If I want to build this thing for the squad, then I need to do the work. And that if that means leaning into discomfort, I'll do that. Just like when you exercise, just like when you have to do a hard whatever at work, like you have to lean into that. And that's what I'm attempting to do, to lean into the hard part, and so that I can have the good stuff, right? So yeah. Anyway, as we get ready to leave this space, I want us to all think about how we're going to take care of ourselves, tonight, tomorrow. Are you going to have a cup of tea tonight? Are you going to watch your favorite show? Are you going to do some breathing exercises? YouTube has some really good 3-minute, 5-minute meditations that you don't even have to do much. You can just put it on and it will let you, it'll make you feel better. And if breathing exercises aren't for you, try some grounding exercises. So, for example, when you're feeling anxious, look for 5 different colors in the room. Okay, find 5 black things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now try to find 5 tan things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now try and find 5 red things, right? And as you do that, you will ground yourself in the thing that you're feeling anxiety about. It will start to dissipate. And so you'll feel more and so you can do this when you're driving. You can ground yourself. You can ground yourself in the grocery store. You can ground yourself before you want to do a podcast, before a test. You can say, okay. And you can, not only with colors, you can do that with sound. What do I hear? What are 3 sounds that I hear? What's something that I taste? What's something that I smell? You can try and find those things in the moment, and then you'll feel you should feel more grounded from then. So I want you guys to have more peace. I want you guys to have more love. I want you guys to have more compassion and hope. And, as we engage in this war, if you will, this battle against the UK and the Drakes of the world, I think we've had enough of hurting him, though, because he's pretty, destroyed at this point. But as we fight for our girl and for ourselves in these media wars, whether it be on Twitter or YouTube when we're pushing back, make sure you take care of yourself, right? And this is a safe space for you guys to come and be with people. And so I encourage you to do that. And guys, I've got to figure out on this new platform how to banish, if you will. I don't have that skill yet, so I'm sorry about that. But so if I'm not, we're gonna say goodbye for now. Let's see. I don't want the attention to be turned on to this person. I will banish them in the other space. Okay, so just ignore, like, you know, kindergarten teachers, or like the kindergarten kid, or the whatever, the person, you know, like, yeah. Because if you're just here to cause chaos, that energy you put out will come back to you. So isn't it interesting that you're here, though, in this space of love and peace? We see you put your picture up there. Yep, that's exactly how it makes us feel. So, I love the squad. Can I get an I am Meghan Markle from everybody before we say goodnight? I am Meghan Markle. I am Meghan Markle. I am Meghan Markle. I am Meghan Markle. My ancestors practiced voodoo. My ancestors practiced hoodoo. My ancestors practiced Christianity. My ancestors practiced it all. And what I've seen is that often when I've seen the demise of so many things. And so, like, I'm not worried. I ain't worried. Because I am Meghan Markle. And so, love squaddies, love you guys. Yep. Marsha, I'm going to give you some powers, okay? So then I don't have to even think about it, all right? So for next time, I'm going to make sure you have some powers to do that yourself. All right, squaddies, so give yourselves a hug if you feel like it. Make sure to ground yourself. Come back. I may do this again one more time this week, and then for sure on Sunday. I should be around 9, I think, Pacific time. So anyway, take a little time to see some Meghan Markle, and you guys have a wonderful week, okay? Good night.